After a certain age, we have heard every money-saving tip in the book. Do not buy coffee, clip coupons, pinch pennies. But let us be honest, most of those tips do not exactly fit where we are in life right now. What we really need are things that work in the real world for women who have lived long enough to know better. That is why today I am sharing 7 real-life stories from my own recent experiences. These are not theories or things I read in a magazine. These are moments where a little bit of wisdom saved me money, saved me stress, and sometimes even saved my sanity. And I know you have your own stories too. While you are listening, I want you to think about the last time you pulled out a money trick that actually worked. Maybe it was a proud moment. Maybe it was just a little victory that made you smile. Share it in the comments, because when we tell our stories, we help each other. Tip 1. The call that saved me $50 a month. Ladies, you know that moment when you open a bill and your first thought is, they must be joking? That was me just last month when my internet bill landed at $90. $90 just for internet service. And you know how they do it. $2 more here, $4 more there, until one day you are paying far more than you remember agreeing to. Now, I decided I was not going to just let it slide. Before I picked up the phone, I went online to see what new customers were paying for the exact same speed I had. Sure enough, it was $50 a month. That little bit of information was going to be my bargaining chip. So I called customer service and said in my calm but firm voice, I am calling to either lower my bill or cancel my service. The representative asked a few questions, typed away for a moment, and then said, well, you have been a loyal customer for a long time. I can offer you 500 megabits per second for $40 a month. That one conversation cut my bill by more than half. And then she told me something important. Call back every single year, and we can do this again. The point is this. Companies count on people not wanting to make that call, but the 30 minutes you spend could save you hundreds of dollars a year. Ladies, sometimes the smartest thing you can do is simply ask. Tip 2. Do not let online sellers push you around. I know many of you enjoy the convenience of shopping online. You can find good deals, read the reviews, and have things shipped right to your door. But there is one thing I have learned. You have to keep an eye on who you are buying from. Not long ago, I ordered a small 3-tier weight rack for my back porch. It was the perfect size for keeping dumbbells neat instead of scattered across the floor. The price looked great. The reviews were solid, so I placed the order without a second thought. Here is what I did not notice. It was being sold by a third-party seller, not directly from Amazon. At first, everything seemed fine. The order went through, I got the confirmation, and I waited for delivery. Then it got delayed. First by a couple of days, then by another couple of days. I checked the tracking and saw it sitting in some warehouse, not moving at all. That is when I knew something was wrong. I sent the seller a polite message, no reply. A few days later, I tried again. Still, no reply. At this point, they had already charged me over $90 and I had nothing to show for it. I called Amazon, but they told me that because it was a third-party seller, I would have to work it out directly with them. Which was the problem? I could not get them to respond, so I called the bank that issued my card, explained the situation, and filed a dispute. And here is the amazing part. Within 24 hours, the seller suddenly contacted me. They said they would refund me, but only if I canceled the dispute first. I told them, no, you refund me first, then I will close the dispute. The moral is simple. Do not let an online seller take your money and give you the runaround. Watch your delivery dates, follow up quickly if something feels off, and do not be afraid to involve your bank if necessary. Whether it is $90 or $9, it is still your money, and you have every right to protect it. Tip 3. Share your story. change someone's life. Ladies, I know many of you grew up in a time when talking about money was considered impolite. It was something you kept private, almost like a family secret. You did not ask how much someone earned. You did not talk about debt, and you certainly did not admit if you were struggling. That was the way it was. But over the years, I have learned something that has changed my perspective entirely. When you have gone through a financial challenge and found your way out, your story can be a lifeline for someone else. I remember a couple I used to see at work. They were friendly, polite, and we would chat here and there. Over time, they overheard bits of my own story, how I had worked hard to pay off my mortgage, how I had made mistakes with debt years earlier, and how I had turned things around. One day, the husband came up to me in the break room, looked a little hesitant, and said, "We could use some help. We are in over our heads, and we do not know where to start." Now, I am not a financial advisor, but I do know what it feels like to be under the weight of debt, wondering if you will ever get free. So, I agreed to help. A week later, we sat down at their kitchen table with stacks of papers, credit card statements, loan balances, utility bills, bank statements. We went through every single expense, every debt, and every dollar of income. I could see it was overwhelming for them, but I also knew that facing the numbers is the first step toward freedom. I worked with them to create a plan. Nothing fancy, just a simple step-by-step path to pay down their debts in a way that made sense for their income and their life. I told them it would take discipline, and there would be moments they would want to quit. But I also told them that every dollar they paid off would lift a little more of the weight they were carrying. A year and a half later, I got a message from them that simply said, "We have one debt left." They had paid off their student loans, their car loan, and all but one small balance. They were proud of themselves, and they should have been. The lesson here is this: sharing your story might feel uncomfortable at first, but you never know who is listening and needs exactly the encouragement you can give. Ladies, your wisdom and experience are valuable. If you have overcome something, speak up. You might just help someone else change their life. Tip 4. The magic of 5 Friday months. This one is a quiet little secret in the world of saving money, and once you see how it works, you might wonder why no one told you sooner. I call it the 5 Friday month trick, and it is one of the easiest ways to give yourself a financial boost without cutting back, without sacrificing, and without feeling any kind of pinch. Now, this only works for those of you who are paid every single week. Maybe you are still working a part-time job. Maybe you run a small business and pay yourself weekly. Or maybe you are doing some kind of regular contract work. The important part is that your income is divided into 52 paychecks per year. Here is how the magic happens. Most months have 4 Fridays, which means you get 4 paychecks. You probably have your bills and budget set up around that. But a few months each year have 5 Fridays instead of 4. That means you get an extra paycheck. You did not work more hours. You did not take on extra shifts. It is just the way the calendar falls. Let us put some real numbers on it. Suppose your weekly paycheck is $1,000. In a typical month with 4 Fridays, you bring home $4,000. That covers your bills, your groceries, maybe a little extra for savings or fun. But when a month comes along with 5 Fridays, suddenly you have $5,000 coming in. That is an extra $1,000 above your normal monthly income. Now here is where the tip really becomes powerful. You do not treat that extra paycheck like fun money. You do not let it get swallowed up by impulse purchases or little extras that disappear without you noticing. Instead, you set it aside with intention. You can put it straight into your emergency fund, use it to pay down the balance on a credit card, or even set it aside for something important you have been meaning to do, like a home repair or a trip to see the grandkids. Depending on the year, there can be 3 or even 4 of these 5 Friday months. If you stick to the plan, That could mean an extra $3,000 or $4,000 in your pocket without changing anything about your lifestyle. Think about what you could do with that. Fix the roof, pay off a lingering loan, pad your savings for peace of mind, or set aside a little cushion for the unexpected. I like this method because it is painless. You are not skipping your morning coffee. You are not telling yourself no all month long. You are simply taking advantage of a quirk in the calendar that most people never think about. And here is the truth. If you do not plan for that extra paycheck, it will vanish. The bills will expand to fill it, or it will trickle away on little things that you will not even remember buying. But if you plan for it ahead of time, it can be a powerful boost to your financial stability. So ladies, the next time you look at the calendar and see that a month has 5 Fridays, smile to yourself. You just found a way to give your savings account a nice, healthy deposit without doing a single extra hour of work. That is the kind of money magic I can get behind. Tip 5. The company you keep. Ladies, we have all heard the saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. When I was younger, I thought that was just a nice little motivational quote. But the older I get, the more I see how true it really is, especially when it comes to money. The habits, the attitudes, and even the priorities of the people around us have a way of rubbing off on us, sometimes without us even realizing it. I remember a period in my life when my social circle revolved almost entirely around spending money. Saturdays meant lunch out at a restaurant, followed by a stroll through the mall where we would just browse, which almost always ended in buying things we did not really need. Maybe it was a new shirt because it was on sale. Maybe it was a pair of shoes that looked nice in the store but never quite fit right at home. It was fun in the moment, but it was quietly draining my wallet. And it is not just shopping. For some, it is going out for drinks every weekend, or always suggesting expensive restaurants instead of a simple potluck at home. For others, it is hobbies that cost far more than we care to admit. None of these things are bad in themselves. But when they become habits, they can slowly pull us away from our bigger goals. At one point, I realized that my financial priorities were changing. I wanted to save more, live a little simpler, and put my money toward things that truly mattered to me. But when I started making those changes, not everyone understood. Some friends teased me for always being frugal. Others acted a little hurt when I turned down an outing because it did not fit my budget for the month. And I will be honest, it was not easy to stand firm. Here is what I have learned. Sometimes, when you decide to improve your financial habits, it makes other people uncomfortable, not because they dislike you, but because it reminds them of habits they are not ready to change in themselves. It can shine a light on something they would rather not think about. That is human nature. So what do? You do not have to cut people off or make some big announcement. Instead, you quietly start spending more time with people whose habits line up with where you want to go. Maybe it is a neighbor who loves gardening and shares vegetables from her yard. Maybe it is a friend who enjoys walking at the park instead of going to a pricey lunch spot. Maybe it is family members who get excited about swapping recipes instead of shopping for clothes. Over time, you will notice your new circle not only supports your financial goals, but also inspires you in other ways. You may pick up new hobbies, healthier routines, or even just enjoy a calmer, simpler pace of life. And here is the thing. You can still care deeply about those old friends. People come and go from our daily lives, and that is natural. But you have every right to protect your goals and your peace of mind. One more point, and this one is important. At this stage in life, you have already worked hard for decades. You have paid bills, raised kids or grandkids, kept a home, maybe juggled multiple jobs along the way. You have earned the right to set boundaries with your time, with your energy, and with your money. Surround yourself with people who respect that. not those who make you feel guilty for it. So, the next time someone makes a joke about you, always bringing your own lunch or never splurging, smile politely and remember this: the life you are building, the peace you are protecting, is worth far more than a lunch out or a shopping trip. You will not even remember in a week. Tip 6. The Use It Up Challenge. Now let me ask you something. When was the last time you really looked through your pantry, your fridge, or your freezer? I mean really looked, pulled everything out, checked the back shelves, and found things you forgot you had? If you are like most of us, there is probably more food in there than you realize. I am talking about canned goods tucked away behind the soup, frozen vegetables buried under the ice cream, or that bag of rice you bought just in case and then forgot about. A while back, I decided to try something I call the Use It Up Challenge. The idea is simple. For 2 full weeks, I would buy only the absolute basics: milk, eggs, maybe a little fresh produce, and every meal would come from what I already had in the house. No extra grocery trips, no takeout, no just picking up a few things at the store. At first, it felt a little strange. I am used to having plenty of choices. And suddenly, I was looking at ingredients thinking, all right, what can I make out of this? But then it turned into something fun, almost like a cooking competition with myself. I found a bag of frozen berries from last summer, a few different types of pasta, more cans of beans than I care to admit, and some frozen chicken that had been waiting far too long to be used. I started getting creative. I made hearty soups, pasta dishes, and even a berry crisp for dessert. Not only did I save money, but I also cleared out space and reduced waste. By the end of the 2 weeks, I had saved well over $150 on groceries without feeling deprived. And here is the best part. Once I had used up the older items, my pantry and freezer were organized again. I could see what I had, and I was less likely to overbuy in the future. It felt good to know I was making the most of what I already owned. The lesson here is that sometimes we have more than enough right in front of us, but we get into the habit of automatically buying more. The Use It Up Challenge is a simple way to break that cycle. It saves money, reduces waste, and makes you more mindful of your spending. Plus, it can be a fun little adventure in the kitchen. Tip 7. The one-day wait rule. Ladies, if there is one habit that has saved me from countless "why on earth did I buy that" moments, it is what I call the one-day wait rule. It is simple, it is painless, and it works just as well whether you are buying something in a store, online, or even over the phone. Here is how it goes. When you see something you want to buy that is not an urgent necessity, I mean not medicine, not milk, not something you truly need right away, you wait 24 hours before pulling out your wallet. Now, I know that does not sound revolutionary, but you would be amazed how powerful it is. I cannot tell you how many times I have seen something that caught my eye. Maybe a nice sweater, a kitchen gadget, or a pair of shoes. And in the moment, it felt like I had to have it. But when I applied the one-day wait rule, 9 times out of 10, by the next day the excitement was gone. I would realize I did not really need it, or that I already had something similar at home. This rule has saved me from a lot of unnecessary spending, but more importantly, it has saved me from clutter. You know the kind of clutter I am talking about. The just-in-case items that end up in a drawer. The clothes that stay in the back of the closet with the tags still on. The gadgets that seemed fun until you had to figure out where to store them. All of those little purchases add up, both in money and in the space they take in our homes. Let me share a recent example. Not long ago, I was browsing online and came across a beautiful pair of sandals. They were well made, on sale, and looked comfortable. In the past, I would have ordered them right away, especially because my size tends to sell out fast. But I told myself, apply the rule. So, I waited. The next day, I looked at the listing again, and it hit me. I already own 3 pairs of sandals that are nearly identical. Sure, these were nice, but I did not need them. By waiting that one day, I kept $60 in my pocket and avoided adding another item to my shoe rack that I would barely wear. The beauty of this rule is that it forces you to slow down. Modern shopping, especially online shopping, is designed to push us toward instant decisions. Only 2 left in stock. Sale ends tonight. Buy now with 1 click. All of those tactics are there to make us act without thinking. The one-day wait rule gives you a little breathing room, a pause to ask yourself, do I really want this, or do I just want it right now? For some of you, 24 hours might not be enough. You could make it the 2-day wait rule, or even a week-long wait rule for bigger purchases. The exact time is not as important as the habit itself. The point is to break the automatic see it, buy it cycle and replace it with a moment of reflection. And here is something else I have noticed. When I wait, sometimes I still decide to buy the item, but I feel better about it. I know I have thought it through. I know it will be used, and I know I am not just chasing a momentary feeling. That makes the purchase more satisfying, and it makes me appreciate it more. So ladies, if you want an easy, no-stress way to save money and reduce clutter, start practicing the one-day wait rule. You will be surprised how much it changes your habits over time. You will spend less, you will buy fewer things you regret, and you will create more space in your home, in your budget, and in your life for the things that truly matter. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground today. 7 real-life money-saving lessons, each one pulled from situations that could happen to any of us. These were not complicated strategies or schemes. They were moments where paying attention, being willing to speak up, and making small but smart choices made a real difference. And that is the beautiful thing about managing money at this stage of life. It is not about chasing every trend or memorizing every financial term. It is about using the wisdom you have earned through years of living, working, raising families, and overcoming challenges. It is about looking at your resources, your habits, and your priorities, and making them work together so you can feel secure and enjoy life. Maybe one of today's tips will stick with you. Maybe you will remember to call and negotiate your bill before it gets out of hand. Maybe you will think twice before hitting buy now from a seller you do not know. Maybe you will share your own financial journey with a friend who needs encouragement. Or maybe you will start a little challenge for yourself, using up what you have, setting aside that extra paycheck, or giving yourself 24 hours before making a purchase. Whatever you choose, remember this: small actions add up. A little saved here, a little avoided there, and before you know it, you have more breathing room in your budget and more peace in your mind. That is the goal, ladies. Not to count every penny until it drives you crazy, but to make sure your money is serving you, not the other way around. So, here is my invitation to you. Think of your own recent money win, no matter how small. Maybe you found a better deal. Maybe you fixed something instead of replacing it. Maybe you simply said no to something you knew you did not need. Share it in the comments below. When we trade our stories, we are not just talking about money. We are reminding each other that we are capable, resourceful, and wiser than we sometimes give ourselves credit for. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I truly appreciate every one of you who listens, who shares, and who keeps showing up to learn and grow. I hope you take at least one of these ideas and put it to work in your own life this week. Until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of your money, and keep building the life you want, one smart choice at a time.